Oscar Martinez had learned 3 important lessons during his 5 years aboard the Celestial Harmony. Never trust the food synthesizer on level 7. Always carry a spare oxygen canister, and most crucially, never reveal all your cards at once. That last lesson was serving him particularly well today. He stood at the observation deck, pretending to study the swirling nebula outside while his wife, Julia Corthax, Ambassador Julia Corthax of the Draconic Coalition, spoke in her native tongue to her diplomatic entourage. The universal translators everyone wore conveniently didn't process a language so complex that most humans couldn't distinguish its syllables from angry throat-clearing. Most humans. The human is more foolish than I anticipated, Julia hissed in perfect Draconic, her crystalline scales catching the purple light of the nebula. He actually believes this marriage was arranged for love. Oscar's grip tightened on his datapad, but his face remained serene. 3 years of marriage, countless diplomatic dinners, and endless nights where she'd whispered sweet nothings in his ear, all while thinking he couldn't understand her secret conversations. Commander Vex, Julia's security chief, clicked his mandibles in what passed for draconic laughter. Does he suspect the true purpose of the Union? Of course not, Julia replied, her voice dripping with condescension. Oscar is brilliant with engineering, I'll grant him that. His redesign of our shield harmonics was genuinely impressive, but politically, strategically, he's a child playing with building blocks while empires rise and fall around him. Oscar made a show of zooming in on the nebula, capturing images with his datapad. In reality, he was recording every word through the discrete audio sensor embedded in his collar, a little modification he'd made 6 months ago when he first started noticing Julia's suspicious midnight conversations. The Earth Council remains unaware of the mineral rights clause in the marriage contract, Vex asked. Completely oblivious, Julia confirmed. Once the 5-year anniversary passes, the treaty automatically grants the Coalition exclusive mining rights to Earth's asteroid belt. By the time their lawyers realize what they've signed, we'll have extracted enough platinum and iridium to fund our fleet expansion for a decade. Oscar felt his blood run cold, but years of poker games with the engineering crew served him well. He laughed at nothing in particular, played the role of the oblivious human tourist admiring the pretty lights in space. And after, another voice asked Tokara, Julia's chief advisor. Julia's laugh was sharp and crystalline. After, dear Oscar will have served his purpose. I'll cite irreconcilable differences, take my diplomatic immunity, and return home a hero. He'll be left with nothing but memories of a marriage that never truly existed. Oscar's jaw clenched. 3 years. 3 years of believing that somehow, despite all odds, love had bridged the gap between species. He thought about their late-night talks about building a future together, her promises about starting a family, the way she'd held his hand during the nebula storms. All lies. But who could play at deception? Such a shame, Vex mused. He seems genuinely fond of you. Humans are sentimental creatures, Julia said dismissively. It makes them easy to manipulate. Oscar's no different. Show him affection, laugh at his jokes, and he'll follow like a domesticated pet. That stung more than Oscar cared to admit. But pain could be useful, it could be sharpened into purpose. He'd spent 2 years studying Draconic in secret, using AI language models and archived diplomatic communications. What had started as simple curiosity wanting to understand his wife's culture had become something far more valuable. Knowledge was power, and right now, Oscar held all the cards. The question was how to play them. He could expose Julia immediately, bring the recordings to the Earth Council. But that would only solve one problem. The treaty would still exist, the loophole would remain, and the Coalition would simply find another way to exploit it. Worse, it would trigger an interstellar incident that could escalate into war. No. Oscar thought. What he needed was something more elegant. My dear Oscar, Julia called out, her voice suddenly warm and musical as she switched to standard English. She glided over to him, her diplomatic mask perfectly in place. Are you enjoying the nebula? It's spectacular, isn't it? Breathtaking, Oscar replied, meeting her emerald eyes with a smile that didn't quite reach his own. Though not as beautiful as you, my love. Julia laughed, the sound like wind chimes. Flatterer. I have a surprise for you. I've arranged for us to have dinner tonight in the captain's private dining room. Just the 2 of us. I look forward to it, Oscar said. And he meant it, because tonight, he would begin his countermove over the past months. Oscar hadn't just been eavesdropping on Julia's conversations. He'd been building relationships throughout the ship with other Coalition diplomats who weren't part of Julia's inner circle, with representatives from neutral parties, with junior officers who valued honor over political expediency. He'd also been studying coalition law, particularly the intricate rules governing diplomatic marriages and treaty obligations, and he'd found something interesting, a clause that even Julia seemed unaware of. If a coalition ambassador was found guilty of treaty fraud, specifically of manipulating a diplomatic marriage for personal or political gain, not only would the fraudulent clauses be voided, but the ambassador's entire delegation would face permanent exile. Moreover, any treaties they'd negotiated could be subject to complete renegotiation. Oscar needed proof that would hold up in coalition court. He needed witnesses, and he needed Julia to incriminate herself publicly. As he watched his wife drift back to her entourage, already slipping back into Draconic to continue plotting, Oscar allowed himself a small, genuine smile. Stupid human, she'd called him. He'd show her just how stupid he really was. The game had begun, and Oscar Martinez was playing for keeps.